Hi there, welcome to David's Kitchen. I am so excited to be bringing this to you today. We are doing pork carnitas and guacamole today. So one of my favorite recipes, something that I love to cook, and it's something that's pretty easy. It's just a little time consuming. You want to allow about 4 or 5 hours to make this. And we're just going to start walking through making it. So pork carnitas, traditional Mexican dish. It's fried pork that we then slow roast. And then season it with lots of good seasons and just have a good time with it. So the first thing we want to do, though, is that we want to start getting our oil hot because people never get their oil hot. So I'm going to have over here, we have our peanut oil, and we have our big Dutch oven with about half a cup or so of peanut oil, a little bit of oil there. We're going to turn that heat on high, get that heat going nice and easy. And then we're going to take our pork. So we have here shoulder pork butt, boneless, and you want to cut it up into cubes or balls, about the size of a small baseball, maybe a little bit smaller than a baseball. So we're going to put all of these out, and then we're going to salt and pepper these to get them nice and seasoned. So with salt and pepper in it, you always want to make sure to season your food. I find people do not season their food well enough. So you want to make sure to take extra time to get this all good and salt and pepper. I want to talk a little bit here about my salt and pepper mix. So that's the other thing. Make sure you're using good salt, good pepper. So I do a blend here of a couple different kinds of salts and a couple different kinds of peppers, and that creates then this really good salt and pepper blend that I use pretty much for all of my seasonings whenever I'm cooking. So we're going to take that and use a generous portion of that and just kind of like rain the salt, do your little salt bay on this and get all that nice and salt and pepper on all that pork. You want to salt for, 5-6 inches above the pork so it kind of rains. You don't want it too salty, but you want to make sure everything gets well seasoned on there. Then you're going to go through and turn everything over. And we're going to salt the other side. So just also while I'm doing this, I want to talk about my salts a little bit. One of my favorite salts is this one. This is a Szechuan pepper roasted salt from Penzeys. They're one of my favorite salt places I use. There's a little bit of that. It has a good kind of like kick to it. So definitely a really good salt to put in your mix there. And then again, we're going back to our salt bay on this and making sure everything's nicely salted, nicely peppered. Get that all over. Okay. And here our next step is we're going to drop this in the oil. Once the oil is hot enough, we want to make sure that oil is nice and hot, and then we'll drop the pork. Okay, we got the pork here. We have our oil nice and hot. You can, if it's too hot to put your hand over, that's when you want it. You want it nice and hot. You can kind of see the oil is rippling a little bit. That's when we know it's nice and hot. We have our pork here. We're going to want to do this in batches so that we don't overcrowd the pan. And we're just going to drop our pork in one at a time. And we want that nice bubbly pork, just like that. That's exactly what we want it to do. We're going to be frying the pork up here. We put about half of our pieces in. If you have a smaller pot, you may have to do like 3 batches. Or if you're making a bigger batch of pork, 3 batches. Yeah, you want to drop it in and just let that cook nice and in there like that. Yeah. Right. And see, we don't want to crowd the pan here. We won't want the stuff touching. This is nice. We just want to get this nice and cooked. We're not going to fully cook the pork in here. We just want to get some nice good color on this pork. See there, we got some nice caramelization already going on that pork. And we're going to want that for all of our pieces here. And we're going to do a second step here as well. We want to make sure to keep that oil nice and hot so as we add the pork in, it's going to drop that oil temperature pretty quick. Nice good golden color forming on that. Hot pan. This is what really will make your carnitas extra good, is to get this good fried crust on your pork. One of the things I didn't talk about was cracking the pork into these little baseball-sized pieces. So we had a big chunk of pork. It's about 4.5 pounds, and we broke it down into these little pieces. You have to trim a lot of the fat off because you don't want that fat in the pork. You don't want that in your meal. So you're going to throw away, maybe a good, quarter to half pound of your meat as you're trimming that down. So we got this all bubbling here. We're going to keep doing this and getting that nice golden brown color, just like these pieces here on all our pieces. Maybe about 3 or 4 minutes per side, per piece, and then we'll get the other batch going. Okay, so we got our first batch of the pork out of the pot. It's all nice and fried, all nice and golden brown there on the outside, still very undercooked in the middle. And we have our second set here. We want to give it a few minutes in between batches to let that oil return to temperature, nice and hot. Something also I get asked a lot is about oil. What kind of oil do I use? And a lot of people think extra virgin olive oil is like the go-to oil. Well, you don't ever want to use olive oil to fry because it has a really low smoke point. You'll have a black kitchen if you try to fry this up in extra virgin olive oil. I love peanut oil because it is a high temperature oil. You can get the oil really nice and hot for your cooking. And I use pretty much peanut oil in all my cooking and all my frying. If you do have a peanut allergy, you maybe want to use something like a canola oil or something like that. That has also a good smoke point. So research what oils you like to cook with, but peanut oil is my go-to. So that pan is nice and hot again. That oil is ready to go. And we're going to drop in those pork pieces again, back into that nice big Dutch oven. And again, we want to remember, don't want to crowd that pan. Nice about 6 pieces in there at a time. And that's going to fry up again, 2 or 3 minutes per side, flip over, 2 or 3 minutes again, and then you're going to get that nice brown pork in there, and then we'll be ready to move on to our next step. Okay, so we have our pork is all fried now, so we're going to pull that last of that pork out of that batch. Turn our temperature off. Also, the other thing that we've been doing while this is going is we have our oven preheating to 350 degrees. So that should be ready just in a few minutes for while we finish this next step. This is where we're going to really get the flavor into this and give it that really good, authentic Mexican pork carnitas flavor. So we have our bowl there, all that oil. It's not a lot, that's a lot of oil that we want, that we don't want for our dish. So we're going to pour out some of that oil just into a nice heat-safe bowl. A lot of good flavor in the bottom of that pan there. And we want a little bit of oil. And we want all that flavor from the pork. Do you want to stop?
There's grease underneath that pan. I don't want to set it on fire.
Okay. Move those seeds and ribs. Put that into the bottom of the pan. Give that a good stir in there. And we don't need to caramelize these onions or so. We just want to cook them a little bit, have them release some of their juices, some of their sugars. Maybe like a minute or so. Like I said, don't need to caramelize. And then while you're doing this, you want to scrape up the bottom of that pan so you can really get all that good porky flavor from the bottom of the pan back into your broth. So we got some nice good onions going. That should be about it. You can see some of the edges are starting to brown just a little bit. Again, we don't need to caramelize these onions. We have about 3 or 4 garlic cloves. What I do is I take the garlic cloves, cut them in half, and smash them with the back of the knife. Again, we're going to want to pull these out at the end. We just want this for the flavor. Garlic will brown really easily, so we don't want to put this in until we're very ready to here. We're only wanting to cook that garlic, maybe 30 seconds or less, just to, again, release some of its flavors, get that going in there. But we don't want that garlic to cook too long, because otherwise it will brown and become really bitter. To that, we have fresh fruit. We have lime cut in half. We have an orange cut in half. This is half of the orange, so half of a half. Just squeeze in some fresh juice there. And throw the whole orange in. Same with your lime. Throw that whole lime in. There you go. Give that a good stir. All that juice will then help start deglazing that pan. And we're good. Then we're going to add our pork back into the pan. Don't want to dump it from the plate in because as you can see on the plate, there's a lot of the juices and fats and oils. So we don't want that to go back into the pan. So just use this one by one. Get your pork in there on top of all those onions and all that flavor. We want that flavor to flavor the pork. Just nestle those all down and good in there. There we go. It's got a nice, good full pan of pork and all that flavor. Okay, and then we're going to add our spices. So we have all of our spices here. Use about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of each spice, depending on how you like them. So these are some of my favorite spices for this. We have some coriander here, Mexican oregano. We have some cayenne, cumin, and this is from Penzies, and they're not sponsoring me or anything, but they're my favorite spice. We have this Arizona Dreaming that has a really nice blend. It's ancho, onion, paprika, citric acid, a couple other good flavors in there. So we have all of these here. Get about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of each. We're going to put all this together. The one thing with the Mexican oregano, you have this whole little thing. You want to rub it together with your fingers. This helps release a lot of those oils that's in that Mexican oregano. So you got that all mixed up with your fingers before you add it to your spice mix. Give that a swirl. And then we're going to add that to everything in here. And that's going to be some really good flavor. Give that a good stir to get that all mixed in. Get all those flavors mixed. And you can, oh, I wish you guys could smell the kitchen right now. It smells so good with that cumin, and that chili, and that Mexican oregano all in here right now. And then the last couple things we're going to do here is add in our chicken stock. So I use a dried chicken stock. You use about a teaspoon to 1 cup of water to make your chicken stock. I find that recipe that's on the bottle a little salty. So here I have 4 cups of water and I added 3 teaspoons of chicken stock to it. So I have 8 cups of chicken stock that we're going to add to our pan. Now what we want to do is add just enough chicken stock so it just gets just under everything. It looks like with this and everything that we have, we only need about 4 cups of chicken stock. So we want things peeking out there from the top. We don't want it completely submerged in liquid. And again, give it a good stir. Get all those flavors and all those spices mixed around. Again, we just want everything kind of peeking out from that water. And that good chicken stock and broth. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. So maybe, so we used about 4 cups, so maybe 4.5 cups of stock for this recipe. But again, it's all going to depend on the size of your pot and what you have. Last thing I have here is some fresh cilantro. Cilantro, I know there's a big cilantro divide. Either it tastes like soap or it's amazing for you. To me, I love cilantro, so I add some fresh cilantro right on top. Again, don't chop it up because we're going to pull it out at the end. So just throw in that fresh cilantro. Give that a stir. Mix it all in on your pot. And then what we want to do is bring this to a boil so that all that liquid in there is nice and hot. And then we're going to pop it into the oven for 350 degrees. It's going to be in the oven for about 2.5 hours. So all those flavors, it's going to roast that pork. It's going to make the pork really break down. And we're going to get yummy carnitas from this recipe. So once this returns to a boil, I'm going to pop that in the oven, and we're good to go. 2.5 hours later, we'll have some carnitas. With everything that's been on the top now, it's now on the bottom. And so that these pieces here will all now get that nice good color as it goes back in the oven for another hour, hour and a half. So same thing, just gonna put that right back in. Set our timer for 90 minutes. And we'll check back with you guys in about an hour, hour and a half. Thanks so much. Hey there. Okay, so to have the perfect pork carnitas, we need some really good guacamole, not just to put on the carnitas, but also as a side, because who doesn't love chips and guac? So this is my favorite guacamole recipe that I've been making for years, and I love making it. Usually, when I'm cooking, I'll do a pico de gallo first, and then I'll use a pico de gallo to make my guacamole. But we're doing a little kitchen shortcut here. We have some pre-bought pico de gallo, and I always say pico de gallo should only have 4 ingredients. It should have tomatoes, it should have white onions, it should have cilantro, and it should have jalapenos. No red onions, nothing else. Those are your 4 ingredients in pico de gallo. So if you can find that pre-made, great. Otherwise, you can make it yourself. And you want to use about equal parts, a little bit more tomato than the onion, and then just a little bit of cilantro and a little bit of jalapeno for flavor in there, maybe some kosher salt on top of it to bring all those flavors out and get the tomatoes to macerate. And that's what we have there. So then we're going to go to our avocados. You want to make sure your avocados are nice and ripe. For this, we're just doing a small batch, so we use about 4 or 5 small ripe avocados. I did a little pre-work here, so you cut your avocados in half. You have your pit, take your pit out, and then you have your avocado. What I like to do with my avocado is I do a couple quick slashes on it one way, a couple quick slashes on it the other way. So it gives you nice good chunks for your guacamole. So again, that way. And just be really careful as you're cutting your avocados with your knife, because one of the biggest accidents is avocado and knife accidents. So you don't want to cut your hand while you're doing it. Use a large spoon, and you just want to cut or scoop out all of that good avocado meat into your bowl. And you're just going to repeat that with all your avocados, but I've already pre-done my other ones. Like I said, I have about 4 or 5 avocados here, small. I usually find if you're using this size avocados, about 1 per person, maybe 1.5 per person for your party. If you use large avocados, maybe half an avocado per person for your party. So guacamole is always the hit. Next, we want to use some fresh lime juice. These are pretty small limes, and they're not super juicy, so you kind of want to gauge it. With this, I'm going to use, well, it looks about enough. Maybe we'll do just a little bit more squeeze of some lime juice in there. You don't want it super limey, but it'll help keep the avocado from turning brown. We're going to use a little bit of our salt-pepper mixture in there, give it some flavor. And then the other thing that I always love is Lawry's garlic salt. So a little bit of that in there really brings out some good flavor. And then we're going to put on our pico. And they usually say maybe about 1/5 on the pico. So however much you have of the avocados, about 1/5 of that amount of pico should go in. So get those good tomatoes, get some of that cilantro in there, make sure you're getting all those good flavors in there. So it'll really make your guacamole sing. Maybe 1 more scoop. We got that. Then we want to add a little bit extra flavor. So I have here some chopped up extra jalapeno. This is jalapeno I got from my garden. So I add just a little bit extra jalapeno just for a little bit more heat and flavor. And then this is my secret ingredient. I don't think I've met anybody who does this in making their guacamole, but these are shallots. So we have some shallots chopped up very fine. Shallots are kind of a garlic and onion flavor combination. So we're going to add those in there, and I think that really makes your guacamole great. Add just a little bit more salt, pepper mix. Then use a big fork and mash that all up. And you don't want it to pulverize because you want some good chunks in there too. So we're going to get that all nice and mixed up and good. But again, we don't want it pulverized because we want some chunks of that avocado. So a good couple stirs. And that's what it should look like. You should still see some tomato in there, still see some chunks of things. Now we're going to give it a taste here. I'm going to grab a tasting spoon. It shouldn't be too limey. It shouldn't be too salty. It's going to add a little bit more garlic salt. And we're good to go. So that is homemade fresh guacamole made to order for our pork carnitas tacos. When you want to store this in the fridge, because we want to get this nice and cold, put your plastic wrap on it and just put your plastic wrap nice and tight on the guacamole itself. Don't just cover the bowl, but put your plastic wrap down close to your guacamole, and that'll help it from turning brown while you're waiting for those carnitas to finish. Hi, welcome back. Okay, so the pork carnitas has been in the oven now for about 2.5 hours, cooking at 350, and we are ready to go. The house smells wonderful. So what you're going to do is get your pork carnitas out. Be very careful. This pot's going to be extremely hot. You want to turn your oven up to 400 for our next step. So that is our beautiful, delicious pork carnitas. What we want to do here is go through and fish out all of the pork. So we're going to get that all nice and out here on the plate. It will be extremely tender and falling apart on you, which is good. That's what we want. But just be careful as you're pulling it out because you want to not lose any of your delicious pork. So we're going to go through all this. I think we have like 12 or 13 big chunks here. Get these all out. Man, this smells amazing. Like you have that, all those good spices, that good pork smell to it, that orange. It is fantastic in here. You can see some nice crispy edges on the pork, but we're not quite done with it yet. So what we're going to do here, after we get all this out, is we're going to strain all of these juices out. Remember I said we're going to throw away like all those solids and things, so we're going to get all those thrown out of here. And then we're going to shred the carnitas down, and then we're going to put it back in the oven and cook those juices at that higher temperature and really bake these seasonings and flavors into it. So let's get some of these bigger solids out. Let's get all of that, like that pork fat that's fallen off, that lemon rind. Oh, that's a big piece of pork. I want that to go away. So we got all of that. Oh, another piece of pork. So we got all that. So we got some of those big solids out. Then we're going to use our strainer here and kind of get everything else out. This is going to be kind of messy, so we're going to get this here as best as we can. Oh, look at that. That's working really good. Let that go down a little so it doesn't overflow. And get all that good flavor strained out of there. Look at that. That is just a nice little cup of juice. Almost done. So now we have our empty pot back. Let's put all of our pork back in the pot. Take 2 hand forks. Oops. And you're going to go through and get all your pork shredded. This pork should be nice and tender. You can almost even just smash the pork with your forks. See how easily that just shreds and falls apart? So you want to go through all those pork chunks, get that all nice and shredded. This looks amazing, but we really want to get this nice and crispy up and get all that flavor that we've just strained off here back into this dish. So almost done here getting this all shredded. Chunks out there. Should be nice pulled pork. Everything's totally safe to eat here. Let's give it a taste, put a little chef's taste over there. See how this is coming along. Oh, our oven is ready to go back in at 400. Okay, we're looking good here. So that's all nice and shredded. Got pretty much all those big chunks broken down. And what we're going to do with this, with the sauce that we have, and this is a fat separator, so you can see on top there, all the pork fat is on top. We don't want to put that pork fat back in. And I'm just going to give this a good drizzle, not too much, just give it some good flavor on there, about a third. This is now going to go back in the oven for 10 minutes at a time. We'll put it in for 10 minutes. We take it out, stir it all up, add some more juice to it,
put it back in. We do that 3 times, so it should go back in the oven a total of 30 more minutes. And then after the last time, we'll pull it out, toss it all up, and then we're ready to go eat our pork carnitas. Oh, let me try the sample. That's amazing. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so the timer just beeped, and we're going to pull out the pork and do our next step. It's been 10 minutes, so we're going to do this and put it back in the oven. So, got the pork. It's getting nice and hot. We got some nice, good, crispy edges there. That's exactly what we want. We want to give this a good stir. You can see all that nice crispiness on the pork developing. That's exactly what's characteristic of your carnitas. Good, crispy, crispy edges. So do that. And we're going to go through. And that. And awesome, we're good to go. And it goes back in the oven. For now. Okay, we're on our last thing. It's just beefed again, so we're going to do our sauce one last time before we're ready for the carnitas. So pull this out of the oven again. Again, see all that nice crispiness forming on those pieces of pork. Exactly what we want to see. Give that one more good stir. Break up any chunks that you see in there. This all should fall apart really easily now. Some really good carnitas there. Let's add some more of the sauce. Probably adding about maybe ½ cup of liquid each time. And give it one more stir. Again, break up any chunks you see. And let's put that back in the oven. And in 10 minutes, we'll be ready for carnitas. Okay, well, our carnitas are all done. The timer is beeped, and now it's time to prep our dish together and get ready to serve. So we have in front of us here our tortillas and our toppings. So let's get the carnitas out and get this ready to go. So this carnitas looks amazing. Again, this is one of my favorite dishes that I make. So we have that nice, good carnitas all in there. Give that one final stir. And take our pork and put it in our tacos. Just like that. A nice, good, generous helping. Now, I generally don't ever do cheese with my carnitas. I just don't like the flavor together, but you're welcome to do it however you like your tacos to be. These make great leftovers to use in enchiladas, or I've topped pizza with it before. One other thing that I did once. What? Nachos. Oh, nachos are also amazing with this. These are great nacho topping. So we got all those. One other thing I did one time was we did a pork 3-way where we did this and then we topped it with pork belly, and that was really amazing. So we have on here some cilantro and onion mix, one of my favorite toppings for it. So put a little of that on there. And then some salsa verde. This, I think, is the best kind of salsa to have with it. That good lime and tomatillo flavor with it. This you can just buy at the store, a little can for like 99 cents. And this is my favorite kind of crema to use, is the Salvadorian cream. You can also usually find like Mexican table cream, but I find the Salvadorian one a little bit creamier than the Mexican one. And give that a nice, good crema on top. Like that. And then this is, the piece de resistance is chicharrones. So you have fried pork skin. And you're just going to put a little bit of that on each taco. I think it adds a unique flavor, a great crunch, and a really neat profile to that crispy, crispy pork that you've already been cooking. Add a little bit of extra flavor to it. And I like to use a good quality chicharrones. You can find like 4505. I'm using Epic. So there's a lot of good batch artisan chicharrones, but use whatever kind you can find. And there you go, my pork carnitas. And then we have the guacamole on the side for chips and everything. And that's it. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Looking forward to doing this with you guys again. Have a great night.